Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first ever podcast portion of Dusty Barn Gaming. Here with my friend Splickety. How are you doing, man?
Yeah, that's me. What's going on? Well, you're not gonna let the cat out of the bag immediately? We're just friends?
We're brothers from the
Damn
same
straight.
mothers.
Yeah, it's not a metaphorical sense.
No, it isn't. The podcast portion of Dusty Barn Gaming, which is just a part of what Dusty Barn Gaming is going to be a guest-oriented thing. And the first guest is going to be my little bro.
That's me.
Do you mind if I call you Splicko? I'm partial to Splicko.
I can go for. I've been called quite a number of things.
Yeah,
Not many of them were correct.
Splickety doodah, and yeah.
Yeah, make up whatever you want.
Yeah, but I'm your host, Sterling, but Splickety's also here to assist today as the guest. He's the guest for a specific reason, though. The topic we're going to be discussing is going to be Resident Evil, and I can't think of a better person to touch on that with than Splicko.
Damn Skippy.
Damn Skippy. I mean, we're going to get into why that's the reason, you know what I mean? You're a big fan of the games, but there's some big root reasons with the particular title, that comes to mind.
As a wee lad, I was weaned on one particular Resident Evil.
Absolutely. But there's going to be a lot coming from Dusty Barn Gaming. There's going to be, I have to mention, credit to Splicko for the logo.
I am the culprit. I definitely made that shit in in 1 hour and and a 2016 copy of Photoshop that may or may not be cracked.
It's rustic, it's simple, and I love it. Big ups for making that.
Rustic means that do not zoom in on it, or you will see that there were definitely some cut corners.
Nah, don't zoom in on it. Just enjoy it for face value on a smartphone screen, and we'll have no issues. But
make sure to hold your phone as far away as possible. That's how all art should be admired.
Absolutely. But look, it's high quality art in my eyes. Wouldn't have had shit without it. Happy to have it. So the branding, the face of it, created by Splicko. Just wanted to get that out the way. But I think before we get into the Resident Evil talk, how would you define yourself, Splicko? I mean, what achievement hunter, PC master race? I mean, does that sound appropriate?
I guess you could say achievement hunter. I have quite an extensive collection.
Well, that's the reason I say that. Yeah, I mean, if you had to come to the table with a title, achievement hunter seems to be one. I mean, it's impressive.
Thanks for setting me up with that alley-oop. But yes, I have. I pride myself on. I got a big ass showcase. If you want to hunt me down and stalk me and find my Steam, I have 100%ed Resident Evil 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, and the shitty RE-verse multiplayer that you should not touch with a 10-foot pole.
You heard it here, folks, from the guy who 100%ed it, right? I mean, if anybody's got right to say it, you do, you know?
That game was fucking terrible.
I didn't even give it a chance, to be honest with you. Just the concept threw me off from the jump.
I don't think I've ever played a game with worse netcode than you could be playing that shit from NASA with a 1 gigabyte download speed and everybody's still sliding around on ice skates and you'll mag dump a dude in the face and none of it registers. That shit was painful. Also, I want to preface my achievement hunter status. I most certainly used a trainer for 5 because nobody plays the fucking multiplayer anymore. So I had to sit there for like 2 hours and just bot out.
Just bot out
multiplayer games.
That's fantastic. You got to do what you got to do.
So, say what you will. I worked for it in one way or another.
Yeah. But that just seems like a crowning accomplishment or achievement to me, is the amount of achievements you got, man. I mean, shit, I've had my Steam account for 12 years, and I've done quite a bit on it, but then, I look at yours and I feel like I haven't done shit.
My dopamine production is directly tied with that little rectangle that pops up at the bottom right.
And I understand it, because I play a lot of Switch, and when I hop on the Steam Deck or hop on PC and, suddenly achievements are a thing, it's definitely something that makes games more enjoyable when you have a list of tasks, basically special tasks to unlock this and that and blah blah blah, have the game actually completed. Like, it felt good to actually complete Loop Hero, a game we've both completed.
Yeah.
And a game I enjoy very much, but that's not the episode. I mean, maybe we'll have to talk about Loop Hero. Now, Splickety, from what I understand, he's definitely down to be a recurring guest. So there's a lot of things we could talk about. We could have a Loop Hero episode. I thought earlier maybe we should have a Metroidvania one,
I quite literally have nothing better to do, so I'm always available. I'm a free agent.
So I think Splicko is going to be a recurring guest. We're going to have slowly but surely an assortment, but starting off, I thought keeping it close to home with something like Resident Evil, man. I think we should just get straight into it. Yeah. Now, there's an age gap here. So that's what makes this conversation really interesting, is the fact that, I got 8 or 9 years on you. So you and I have soaked the series in quite differently.
Yeah, when you were still in your infancy of Resident Evil, I was running around wearing underwear with shit stains on the front somehow. But yes, there are definitely we have different experiences and milestones when it comes to the Biohazard.
We certainly do. And I actually, I didn't play a lot of the staple games everybody talks about. Didn't play 2 when it was current. Didn't play Code Veronica. Did play the original Resident Evil. Now, I didn't own it, but I played it on PS1. And eventually, you remember, Resident Evil DS, Deadly Silence. That was that and the GameCube remake. That's now the remake everywhere. Yeah. That was my 2 real, first forays into the first Resident Evil. But 3 Nemesis is where I really, really picked up with Resident Evil. We had that on GameCube, I believe, and I loved it, man. It was great. It's funny because that one I fully remember, and playing 3 now, the remake, pretty different. I mean, pretty, drastically different from what I remember.
That's putting it lightly.
Yeah.
One might even say unfinished.
Unfinished, or very parallel to the 2 remake.
I'd say the 2 remake was definitely much more of a full package.
Oh, no. I'm not saying that. I think it's great. What I mean is parallel as in, this looks very familiar from the 2 remake.
Yeah, it's definitely not the same engine.
It just feels like DLC of 2 is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But also Resident Evil 0. We had that on GameCube. That's one I also remember fondly. But
God,
let's just get straight.
Do not get me started on 0. We can come back to that later. But
hey, I mean, we'll come back to 0. How about that?
Yeah.
But 4.
4.
Weef P, as it was known.
4. I used to write fucking RA4 because I was a little tiny mushy-brained idiot.
Resident Evil.
But yes, that is definitely the linchpin.
Yes.
Of my experience with Resident Evil.
So I put you on this, and I'm going to take full credit for it, obviously. And it hit you like it hit me. Now, that's what's funny, is that the age gap is the age gap. But I recall you being just as into this game as me with the age gap. Didn't matter.
Man, watching you play that game, that shit was like magic.
And then actually picking up the controller was really magic.
I I still have very, I mean, I guess you say memory, not fond memories, but I still very vividly remember the first time I actually made it past the village. And I was like, dude, this game's lit, man. I can actually play it, because the same situation was sort of happening with the GameCube remake. Like I would literally boot it up. It's like, okay, got into the main hall. Go left, talk to Barry, go through a door, see the bald guy, turn around, go back to Barry, talk to him. You're almost a Jill sandwich, and then after that, it's like, where the fuck do I go?
You were almost a Jill sandwich.
Yeah, like I don't understand, or I guess I didn't understand. Like my skill was not up to snuff as a young churn, but I still saw the appeal of the games. And then when I could finally progress past that those little sections, I didn't play Resident Evil 1 until much later, and by much later I mean like 6 months ago. But yeah, once I beat the first like village holdout, I was hooked.
Absolutely, and I mean, that's obviously it's the only Resident Evil I can think of that is just endlessly replayable. Mercenaries aside, just run through, carry the same shit over. That's just what it was all about. Just pro run, unlock everything mercenaries, and just overlap it, dude. I mean, just keep it rolling.
It's funny you should mention that, because I feel like I told you this before, but I still have I still have the GameCube, and I still have the memory card with the RE4 file that like you were making. And I'm pretty sure it was before I could actually like progress on my own. You had a professional file that was New Game Plus with the Chicago typewriter, and I would always say type-a-writer.
Yeah.
I quite literally would just run through the game over and over and over, and I think I got up to like run 14, just playing it over and over.
Yep.
Granted, it was easy as shit, but the game itself was just enjoyable.
I'm not putting any blame on anybody, but somebody in the household deleted my original pro run that was on like round 36 or something.
I'm not gonna take responsibility for that. I will, however, take responsibility for deleting your Bugs Bunny in Time file on the PlayStation.
I won't fault you for that. It's so funny. That's a whole nother thing. But like, see, that's the type of game I remember so fondly. But when you go back to play it, it's not that good, man. I mean, like, it's all nostalgia for me.
What, Bugs Bunny?
Lost in Time?
Yeah, probably.
It's all nostalgia for me, because when I got back on, just the little things about it. Like, do you remember the propellers were like with his ears, where like you have to wait till you land? A lot of things in the game happen so slow. It's a very wonky game. Now, look, it's always gonna have a special place in my heart because I feel like I have this nostalgia with it, right? But I'm just saying it's not objectively a good game.
I suppose. And I mean, it's funny you should say that. Like the game wastes your time with like the propeller ears. I feel like that's. I mean, it's a whole other topic, whole big fish to fry. But I feel like that's kind of the case with most older games, that they really wanted to like just squeeze as much time from you as possible, so that you think. I don't want to say think as in like you're getting duped, but like as a young child, you don't mind doing repetitive tasks for hours. So
right.
Like, that ends up making you think the game's long.
Yeah, you get stuck on a part as a kid that's so cryptic. I mean, how could you possibly know? And then you feel like you got your money's worth, as if it was like a 120-hour RPG.
Yeah.
That's a great point. I mean, there's a lot of... I just replayed Glover recently. First day on vacation, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a fresh playthrough of Glover on the Steam Deck. Should be deck verified. It plays very well. And there was a few parts where I was like, this was definitely designed to keep a kid stuck.
Yeah. Whenever we do that Legend of Zelda episode, don't even get me started on
Ooh.
the don't even get me started on the Water Temple and Stone Tower Temple in Majora's Mask.
Yep. I'm a Majora's Mask. I mean, dude,
Yeah,
that's the
you cannot mess with Majora's Mask.
I 100%ed that game to no end. And look, I had a strategy guide. That's one game I'm not afraid to admit. I had a strategy guide for it. And there's not many games that I sat there with a strategy guide. But when I played the game and was like, I really want to get all the masks, everything, every hard piece, you need a guide. And that speaks to how deep Majora's Mask is.
Yeah, you're kind of supposed to be wandering aimlessly, and they got a bunch of like it's kind of taken for granted now that like it's like, oh, how do I get this mask? I'll just look it up. But I'm granted, I was not old enough at that time to really like sink my teeth into a game like that with that kind of complexity.
Right, right.
But but I can just imagine like it's like, how do I get this particular hat? Oh, well, you do this thing on day one, and then this thing on day two, and then you do this thing on halfway through day three, and then you go into this room that you didn't even know existed, and then wait until 13 seconds before the moon falls.
Yeah,
Like that
like
shit would have to be a nightmare without a
like
guide.
the Kafei storyline. I mean, just
That's literally what I was thinking of when I was
yeah.
saying that.
In a nutshell, that's the most intricate it gets, and it's fucking intricate. But we're really veering off of Resident Evil here. But
Yeah, I was about to say I gotta calm myself.
it's really we got a lot to talk about, obviously. So we're definitely gonna have to spread some shit out.
Yeah.
But Resident Evil, I mean, 4 is the holy grail. That's just there in the timeline. Know that for the remainder. That's the holy grail. I mean, I put you onto it. Was very proud to continue to grow old and see you and I continue to share enthusiasm for it. Still playing it. I mean, it's available on every platform imaginable. Used to be only for GameCube. That's the funny thing about it. And we had it when it was only for GameCube. But basically, I mean, I think it might have just made it to the PS2 when we got it. But very glad we got it. Gotta say, five was at the time. I remember thinking it was more awesome than I do now. But I feel like it kept mechanically a lot of what 4 had, and that made me comfortable. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I kind of had I guess you could call it like a bell curve because I remember, playing that on Xbox as well. And I remember when I first played it, I think I only got halfway through the game, and then like the disc got broken or something. So it was always like, always had that like, I guess it sort of like cemented itself as like legend in my head. It's like, man, remember that one game? That game was pretty cool. And then when I got older, when I got to the ripe old age of like 19, I played it with my friend, and then we did a whole playthrough of it. And the entire time, I'm just saying, it's like, wow, this game kind of sucks. This game's kind of not good. And then I ended up doing another playthrough with a different friend, and I actually started to like warm up to it. I'm like, actually maybe I sort of judge this game a little too harshly. I'd say it's easy to complain about, but a lot of it is objectively not that bad. And then when I was doing my 100% foray into it, like just playing it like 90 times in a row, I think I finally warmed up to it. I'm like, you know what, this game is actually pretty good. It's pretty alright. I don't think it deserves the kind of bad rap it got from, because a lot of, I guess you'd call them purists, that say, "Oh man, 4 started the downturn. Man, where's all the survival horror elements? Man, why is Leon? Why does he have a early 2000s Justin Bieber haircut? And why is he drop kicking Spanish people?
Where's my
Like,
tank controls?
yeah, like, and I mean now that because I guess I would have to ask that to you because I didn't really have my finger to the pulse of the Resident Evil community at the time, but I mean, I guess I should ask you, like, was it really like that critically received when it came out?
4?
Yeah.
I feel like 4 was very well received. I mean, it got Game of the Year, if I'm not mistaken, that year.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, and it was very well received overall.
I feel like anytime some old asshole brings it up, it's always like, dude, it started
Okay,
the decline, man. Like,
maybe some
who even
Game
likes this game?
FAQ message board. Maybe. I mean, this is
Yeah.
not. That was not the common consensus from what I understand, man. I mean, everybody knew that that was the shit. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, it was exactly where the series needed to go. But
Suppose.
but I like 5. I think that coming off the heels of 4 is what makes it hard to think it's so amazing. But
Yeah.
it kept a lot mechanically what 4 had. The combat was cool. They had some, some variations and cool mini boss type enemies that were kind of similar but not really. Still had some puzzle fuckery. All in all, it was a good game, and it was cool that you could play with somebody else.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I think it's a pretty damn good co-op game. Like and even if you don't have a friend, if you're a sad, lonely individual, the bot. I mean, for the time, was that like early 2000s? The bot is actually like can hold their own.
That's
So it's
pretty
not like
cool.
it's not like you've had an incomplete experience.
Yeah. Now listen, 6. Now check this out, Splickety. I'm gonna step off camera for a moment,
I,
but I want you to start us on 6. I want you to start giving your opinion on 6.
okay, I'm to be as polite as I can be. I'll say that I did not go through the same go through the same bell curve as you could say 5. I think the game started off okay, and then it sort of had a little decline, and it started to nosedive, and then it hit terminal velocity, and then it started somehow going backwards. I Now, credit where credit's due. I will say that the I wouldn't say the general sentiment, but I do see it quite a bit. If Resident Evil 6 is ever brought up, that the combat is good. I'd say it has. It's not objectively a bad game. It has a lot of good redeeming qualities, like the combat. You got the CQC and shit. You can roll around, all kinds of stupid stupid shit. But I would say it is a slog. It is like going uphill in molasses. It's like that scene from what the fuck was that movie with the horse in the swamp and it's slowly dying and it's heart aching. Whatever that movie was. What the I forget it. The it
No, I want to
it's
know now.
what the fuck it's not.
Horse in the swamp slowly dying.
Yeah, it's the horse. It's like the kid. He's like vaguely ethnic. He's like pulling the horse out. And he's like, "The horse, don't die!" And then the horse is slowly sinking into the muck pool. It's it's not Bridge to Terabithia. That's the girl that drowns or some shit. It's not Neverending Story. I don't think that's with the big rock guy. It's like it's some movie in the middle. You have to look that up. But it's such a like because you'll play. I'm pretty sure the first playthrough you could look at you could look that up offline or off the side while I'm doing this, but I'm pretty sure Leon's playthrough comes out first, and it's like you're going through it. It's like okay, this is it's kind of stupid. There's some a little too over the top action shit going on, and then you'll get through it. It's like, ooh, man, that was an exhausting 4 hours. All right, let's go back to the main menu. We're done. Oh, what's that? There's 4 more campaigns, and every single one of them retreads the same ground as the older ones with very slight variations. And
Talking
they're
about
all
6?
yes, not. Did you think I was talking about the movie with the horse?
I'm just making sure. I'm just making sure where we're at.
Yeah, it's because like I think the second one is what is it? There's Leon and Helena, and then the next one I think is Chris and Piers, and then there's Jake and Sherry, and then the final one is Ada, which they had. I'm pretty sure they had to patch in to have some nameless umbrella asshole join you because it was a single player only, and then people were like, "Oh, dude, why's you a single player? I want to play with my friends." But I'd say even though, because I kept hearing like over and over from my friend that I was playing with, it's like, "Oh no, dude, Ada's one's really good. It's gonna redeem the whole game." And I will admit, it does like shake up the the game a bit more. Like it doesn't, it's not like retreading as much to the same ground, but it comes way too late to I'm like exhausted on the floor. It's like I have to recuperate for an entire week after each playthrough. It's like, God, this shit is just so
So the
it just,
verdict is bad.
I would say it's not for me because I can, like, the same way you could say that 5 is like, oh dude, this is a good co-op game. I'd say if you have a girlfriend that sucks at video games, play it with her and you will enjoy it.
Well, I played the demo and I really was put off pretty quickly. Now, I don't know if that has anything to do with what I was used to, especially coming off the heels of 5, which came off the heels of 4.
Yeah.
But I played only the demo for 6, and I was not impressed. I was not, just, it threw me into a whole new element that I just wasn't feeling. The dodge rolling around, and it just felt like some type of arcade shooter. It just felt,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It felt like a cheap Gears of War or something. I don't even know. Like,
I guess you could say that.
you know, cars everywhere, and I don't know. It just it put me off pretty quickly. Obviously, the demo was not enough to make me purchase a game. I've played demos that have made me purchase games. This was not one of them.
I'm not sure if I'm just like trying to like hold back because it's like, well, it's Resident Evil. You don't want to go too hard on it, but like I'm honestly still on the fence. Like if it really is just like if it is objectively bad or if it's just like just okay. Because like I said, the gameplay, even if you could say it's not for you, there admittedly is some kind of like depth and it's fun to learn all kinds of like
Yeah,
moves you could do to like dodge. Because I feel like that's one thing that a lot of Resident Evil games are missing is some kind of like agency when it comes to avoiding attacks. Because I will admit that one of the biggest, I guess you could say, peeves of mine with a lot of Resident Evil is just like your your movement options are limited to slowly shambling backwards as a BOW is fucking sprinting at you at 50 miles per hour and doing a flying tomahawk towards you. Like,
I I don't know if I'm gonna be revisiting 6. To be honest with you, I'm glad I got your opinion on it, but I think it's definitely taken up its slot here.
yeah. There's bigger fish to fry, and not all
Yeah.
of them have such a terrible story.
Now 7.
I think I can speak for everybody when I say that 7 kicks ass.
Yeah,
There was no debate there.
and you know what's funny is I don't do this very often. This is one of the only, probably the only 1 or 2 games I've ever actually just watched. But I actually watched the game played through. And I don't know why that is. I feel like maybe it's a matter of playing other shit and work and things like that. But I was like, this seems like a game that I kind of want to watch. So I can't say I've played it, but I can say I've watched the silent just gameplay of the game.
Damn, you never played it?
No, I haven't.
Oh, God.
It's on sale for like $6.99. I'm probably gonna pick it up on Steam Deck and just play it. But I was skeptical of the first person shift. You feel me? So
I'd say like a lot of the purists I was talking about, it's like, dude, Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 5, Resident Evil 6, they suck. There's no horror. I feel like 7 was like the perfect response to it was like the pacifier to put in their little mouth. Here's your binky, This is horror. It's objectively, it's straight horror. There's no action. Just be satisfied. Give us
Yeah,
money.
and there's a lot of the game is like, I love what they did with it. In the end, a lot of it is kind of a slow horror crawl.
Yeah.
That's probably partially why I watched it, because a lot of it, there's a lot of in between, a lot of, when I say filler, I don't mean filler like they just have to put shit in. I mean, there's a lot of time walking, backtracking, there's a lot of blank space that needs to be there. I mean, for the game to be what it is, honestly.
Yeah.
But one thing I have to say, I know I haven't played the game through, so I'm not one to speak on it, but I think the whole arm thing is ridiculous.
What, where they staple it on?
Where you just, you pour some meat on it and just put it right back there and it's all good.
I mean, to be fair, I would say
that's ridiculous.
All right, to be fair, to play devil's advocate, not that it justifies it, but it makes sense when you get around to 8. But at the time it is kind of retarded. But have you? I guess this is kind of jumping ahead, but have you played 8 or like seen anything of 8?
I played the demo for 8, which was a non-combat demo, and I haven't played it.
Okay, well, I can't really get into it. It's kind of spoilers about that whole arm situation.
Well, I mean, it's not going to break my heart. I mean, I'm going to play it. It's one of the many games I haven't gotten around to. I'm very Nintendo centric. So there's some non-Nintendo shit that sometimes goes by the wayside, depending on what I'm playing.
Yeah. Well, I guess what I'm trying to get at is the spoiler I'm talking about. If you do play 8, I don't even know, depending on how retarded you are, you could say it's not really that much of like a spoiler, because if the stapling of the arm in 7 really like broke your heart, it's like, wow, this is kind of stupid. Like, they just stapled the arm back on. Like, what is this?
Didn't ruin it for me, but I had to note that it was.
If it left a sour taste in your mouth, when you get to 8, it's they do it like multiple times, and each time is more kind of ridiculous. Like, there's literally a part where you get your arm cut off, and then you physically pick it up and put it in your inventory, and then you walk away, and then there's a little cutscene where you just pour heal juice on it, pour green Gatorade, stick it on, you look up, look back, and the arm is repaired along with the jacket. So, yes, it is kind of dumb, but in hindsight, when you know the spoiler, which I guess, do you care if I say it?
Go for it. I'd love to know what ties this in.
You know the whole like enemy of 7 is like the mold, like it just like regenerates and shit.
Right.
And like it's like all the bosses are like infected with it, and they're kind of like made out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your character Ethan, he is mold. That, like, I'm not sure if you remember, or I'm not sure if you remember watching the part at the very beginning when you shoot Mia in the face, and then Jack comes in, he gives you the southern hospitality and caves your skull in.
Yeah.
You die there, you are dead, and they reanimate you with the mold. So the entirety of 7 and then 8, you are made of mold, which is why you could just keep sticking your fucking arm back on, because you regenerate. Now,
hey.
how you die in the games, I guess you could just chalked it up to it not being canon that you got your ass beat, but you are mold the whole time. So when you first see that, it's like, I guess it's supposed to sort of stick in the back of your mind, like, how this guy just flex taped his arm back on. What's the deal with that? But there is an explanation of it, albeit it comes 2 years later.
I gotta give them props though, because they had me off
commitment to the bit.
They really committed to the bit, and they really were like, it'll make sense one day.
Yeah, but honestly, playing through 8, the spoiler wasn't really like that, because like I said, like, you literally just keep like getting dismembered, like over, like you're a Flash game in the early 2000s, and like you just keep like sticking it back on. It's like, so when it's a spoiler finally comes at the very end, it's like, oh, okay. I mean, I'm not really shocked. But I mean, I guess it's vague enough that like
It makes sense.
you don't really like actively think about it. It's just sort of like, hey, why did that happen? Okay, anyway.
Yeah, but he's mold. Hey, I mean, he's got the same regeneration shit going on. That makes sense now.
Yeah.
So 8, I mean, I would say I've heard very good things. I mean, I haven't played through it, but from what I understand, 8's pretty good. Would you agree?
8 is damn good.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's sort of like the RE4 to like the early Resident Evils. Like if you want to compare them, because like I'd say 8. Not that it isn't as scary. Like there's plenty of scary parts, and there's one part that everybody blows their loads over. It's like, dude, this part's so scary. Holy shit! But I would say it's definitely more like combat focused. There's like a lot more like groups sort of running through like big. There's literally a village, and then a castle, and then a factory. So it kind of follows that same formula.
Right.
I'm pretty sure I've heard that there were like rumors like, oh, this was supposed to be the RE4 remake, but then they put Ethan in it. So I mean, I guess there's enough there for you to put your tinfoil hat on. But
I remember hearing about that. Yeah.
but the damn game is pretty damn good. I would highly recommend it.
I'm going to be doubling back and playing it for sure. I just haven't gotten around to it. It's on sale so cheap now. It's at the no excuse point. So I'll be copping that on Steam Deck eventually.
And also, if you liked Mercenaries and 4 so much, Mercenaries and Village kicks ass.
Awesome. That's
especially
good to hear.
After because they did like a whole. It was with the Actually, speaking of RE4, they added third person to it too. Like they had like a whole like patch that came back around to it. But before,
I think I heard about that too.
Yeah, like before they did a whole like patch of it, like Mercenaries, I 100%ed Mercenaries before the patch, which means that in the old Mercenaries, because like it's not really like 4, because like a lot of the areas are like really cramped, and like there's this hall, especially in the factory parts, like there's like hallways and like stairs up and down, all kinds of shit. The way the enemies worked is that you had to physically go to trigger points to spawn them, and then like you have to keep your combo the whole time if you want to get like S. So how I did it is I had to sit there with a video, and I don't have a second monitor. That would have made it a lot easier. And to go like 10 seconds by 10 seconds by 10 seconds and see where he's going, what enemies he triggers, what ones he keeps alive, where he runs to the next section, triggers those, kills those, what items he buys in between rounds. Like, but with the patch, they changed it to where the enemies come to you now, and they added 2 new stages with that patch. So I played those like just to have them, because you can also unlock a lightsaber if you get triple S on all the stages. So I went back to play those new stages, and I don't know if it was just the new stages or the patch. It was probably the patch, but that shit was so much more fun now that I don't have to micromanage where I'm going, and like it's literally just the enemies are like hauling ass towards you, and you just kill them all, and you're being surrounded, and like you're snap shooting all kinds of shit. Very high quality now that they patched it.
So basically, you did it with a handicap compared to people doing it after.
Yeah, if you do it now, it is probably a lot easier, because the enemies will just. Granted, I haven't played through the older stages, like because that shit was annoying. Like some of the videos are literally like 20 minutes long of the entire stage, and I just have to go like 20 seconds, 10 seconds, 20 seconds. So I have not replayed through them, but I would imagine with the changes it would be a lot easier now.
Yeah. That kind of reminds me, before my vacation's over, I want to get some more Nintendo Switch Sports bowling speed runs in. Now, the runs that I did, and the run I did that's 7th place right now, was before a patch that adjusted pin action. So I am curious to get on and start doing attempts. Haven't done any since, but see the difference. You know what I mean? Because obviously people have been actively doing it, and there's some people that have moved up, but I've kind of stayed at 7th somehow, you know. But I'm wondering if that update to the pin action, apparently it like benefits hooking more, you know, and I that's what I started doing, was hooking from where you start into the pocket. So it's got to pay off for me. But that scenario reminded me of it, kind of like the patch to Mercenaries, but you did it beforehand, you know.
Yeah, that was a pretty interesting segue talking about bowling.
I mean, I'm a big bowler, man. It's funny because I've had a whole other podcast and I've talked about this so many times. But Nintendo Switch Sports, bowling, and golf are two big things for me. But I speed run the bowling.
Yeah, didn't you like? I think you showed me a leaderboard. You were like 4th or some shit at some point.
I was 4th, but I got knocked down to 7th. That's where I'm at right now.
That's still pretty respectable.
But I'm still this much ahead of Shockwave, which is pretty cool.
Not many bowlers could claim such a prestigious standing.
I plan on moving it up. I take it seriously when I do it. I haven't done it in a while, but speed running is very tolling on the mental. I'm sure you know that.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, GoldenEye is going to be coming, I think, on Xbox Game Pass as well, but more excitingly for me, on the Switch Friday. So shit, man, I'll be back on GoldenEye on Switch, speed running these levels like I used to.
Is it original or is it a remaster?
It's original, but it just looks nice. You know what I mean? It's not complete overhaul. They basically are putting it on the N64 online for Switch. So it's going to be the game. You feel me?
Don't you still have to do that look down shit if you want to speed run it?
Yeah, definitely.
What, they can't make that shit run any better on like modern.
I mean, look, we'll see if the meta changes, okay? But as far as I know, I'm going to be looking at the ground a lot. We'll see.
From my experience.
I'm all there for it. Doesn't matter, dude. I'm all there for it. Whatever's new, if anything's changed about it, I'll adjust it. Love GoldenEye. If they put Perfect Dark, if we had GoldenEye and Perfect Dark on Switch Online, man, I'd be in heaven.
I never got on that Golden Dark. Never got on that Perfect Dark train, but I definitely
emulated
played the shit out of some
something. Emulated or something. Perfect Dark is like GoldenEye souped up. I mean, it's amazing.
I think I've seen a little bit of it. It looks.
But I don't really want to talk about the 3 remake as much as I want to talk about the 2 remake, obviously.
Yeah, the 3 remake is kind of like 2's younger, more retarded brother.
Right. I mean, it's much shorter. Didn't find it super difficult. Not as much content by a long shot. Yeah. I don't count RE versus content.
Yeah, the fact that they have 5 difficulties is kind of a good indicator that there's not really much there.
But with 2, a lot of content. Love the No Way Out scenarios. That's something that I wouldn't mind if they kept that going.
It's actually called Soul Survivors.
whatever it's called. No Way Out. Is No Way Out one of them? That's the one.
I believe so.
That's the Hell of a Sheriff.
I think, and then they have the chick with fat titties. And then they have Ghost, Escaping Hive, and then they got Kendo, and then they got Hunk.
Yep. But the Hell of a Sheriff, I think No Way Out. That's what I was thinking. I that's the name for the sheriff scenario, and that's what I referred to all of them as. My bad. But I did get Hell of a Sheriff. That took some work.
That was a pain in the ass.
That took some work, bro.
As bad as I'd say the chicks, even though it's 2 stars or it's like 2 or 3 stars, it's like it's not that hard. I'd say that was like literally the hardest one. Like Kendo's is easy as shit. Ghosts is easy as shit. Hunk, if you know where to go, it's not that bad. You just have to not like waste all your resources early. But yeah, No Way Out is a complete pain in the ass because you have to like walk on eggshells the whole time of like saving like as much as you can, and then when you get to 70 enemies, that's when like they just swarm you with fucking pale heads, and then you gotta use all the like the barrels or the little propane tanks you've been saving.
Yep.
And if you fuck yourself early, it's curtains. But
It's difficult.
it'll be curtains after wasting 15 minutes of your time.
Yeah, it's difficult. But I had finally gotten it, and I was very happy about it. But 2 was great, man. I really had a good time with 2. I actually haven't gotten to do the second run through. Like, I haven't gotten to do the full Claire playthrough, I don't think.
Yeah. I'd say that is one thing that kind of like as great as 2 is. I'd say the second runs are a little underwhelming because like it doesn't really
Yeah, I
it
could.
doesn't really change that much. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I'm.
If it's your first time doing it, I could say like, oh yeah, just do it. But like, I don't know if it would warrant like it's different enough to play over and over. You know?
Matter of fact, I think I have done each of their runs, but I haven't done all of this. Like, I think I went to Leon's secondary and made it a good ways through, but kind of like fell off of it.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't get to actually go through it, but it's kind of like a little variation on location and where you're at and where you're going. You know, not where you're going, but how you're getting there. You know.
Yeah. I'd say at least the RPD parts are kind of like interesting with the second runs because like RPD's kind of like a maze and there's all kinds of different shit. But
Yep.
at any parts outside of RPD are kind of like underwhelming. It's like, oh, it's instead of this crank being in this room, it's 2 rooms over. Whoa.
Yeah. But I think this brings us to, since I mean there isn't a whole lot to talk about with 3.
Yeah.
Not that I didn't enjoy it. You know, it's fine. It's just I feel like 2. If you were gonna pick one, definitely get 2, and I feel like you're gonna get everything you want out of either with it.
I will say that the one I wouldn't say one saving grace. I'm sure there's plenty that's okay with it, but I would say one big thing I liked about 3 was the dodge system. It actually it if for no other reason, I'd say it makes the bosses a lot more enjoyable. Because in
Right.
2, as good as 2 is literally just like power walking away from a tyrant about to throw a rock at your skull, like, or like he's doing like a like a jump kick at you, and he's about to claw you in half, and it's let me just shamble out of the way, like
Yeah. I mean the final boss of the game really highlights that.
yeah, being in a it's like fucking it's like a like bone saw, like you know,
Yeah.
a little
Yeah.
tiny box. It's like I got you for 3 minutes, bro.
I got you for
Like-
3 minutes. 3 minutes of playtime.
Like that's like one of the biggest wrinkles with like a lot of the third person Resident Evils, because like with 3 the bosses are like they're a lot more aggressive, but you can also just like
You can dodge.
yeah, you have agency
Yeah.
with like the shit they're throwing at you, which makes it a lot more enjoyable. But with other ones, it's like an ammo checkpoint. It's like, hey, do you have shotgun ammo? No. Okay, well I'm gonna beat your ass.
Now listen, the final thing, the RE4 remake coming up. What
Don't
made
even-
me think
Don't
to
even get me
get
started.
the one thing that made me think to get into that is because you were talking about ammo checkpoint. It made me think of the storage box system. Really hoping they at least keep the attaché case system from RE4 intact. I hope they don't do nothing to that.
No, I've seen like gameplay. They kept it.
Okay. You see, I haven't checked up on it in a while. I remember
One thing-
watching some early shit, so that's good to know.
One thing that really chafed my asshole though, no laser sight.
What's that? Oh, well. Why couldn't they make it a thing you can turn on and off? I don't understand
Yeah,
why.
it still has the reticle from 2 and 3, which I mean it doesn't.
It doesn't make or break it,
Yeah, but I mean like come on.
but it is RE4, and the laser sight is literally the
Yeah.
that's part of the like they kept that in 5 because of how defining it was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I've got high hopes for it one way or another.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean,
I will say that there's like I don't even know how to say it. It's like I don't want to say it's like some kind of like phenomena or like movement, but just to trail off for a second, like you know the whole thing between like Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas. It's like I'd say Fallout 3 is an objectively good game, but as soon as New Vegas came out, like everybody tries to jump ship, and they're like, "Oh, dude, man, you know, there's a lot of shit that actually wasn't that good with Fallout 3. That game sucks. This new game's where it's at." I kind of saw the same sentiment when I was watching. It was like a teaser, like a couple months back, or not a couple, like 6 months back or some shit, of like all the gameplay, and a lot of the comments were like, "Oh, dude, I'm so glad they're moving away from all the stupid shit that 4 had. Like, dude, that dialogue, whack. The inventory system, or the tank controls, whack. The way the way Ashley plays in the gameplay and gets in front of you, even though she doesn't, and she's completely based on how you move, and if she's getting hit, it's your fault completely. Whack. Hate Ashley." Like they're trying to come back 20 years later with their receipt. It's like, this game that was actually genre defining and went on to inspire multiple game series,
go.
and the game's awesome as shit. It actually wasn't that good. I hope the RE4 remake really, fixes all this stupid shit. And I even watched a couple days ago. I wouldn't say I was preparing for the podcast, but I was just trying to let's give these goobers the benefit of the doubt. Let me go look up some rant videos. And the two I watched, it was like Booba and Kiki. The first one was like some like Glasgow dude with his mic stuffed down his mouth. He's like, "Don't fucking remake it, dude. It's a remake. Stop remaking shit. Stop changing shit, dude." The whole, and I like the entire time watching, I'm like, did I used to sound like that? Because like
that guy's gonna come for you.
Like I it's kind of cringe thinking that like I kind of like shared his sentiment at some point. It's like, dude, the shitty dialogue from early 2000s, that's what makes the game, man. And the tank controls are kind of outdated, dude. That's just part of the charm. But he's just like, dude, they're changing everything. This shit's whack. And he made the one point I fucking despise more than anything. It is like. It's a whole other thing, with
You're making him a centerpiece here. You're giving him a lot of attention.
All right, fair enough. Let me move on to Kiki. Kiki was some nasally asshole, and he's like, he said this about 5 times, and the video was only 5 minutes long. You do the math. He's like,
one time per minute.
Resident Evil 4. It started the series downfall, and it made it appeal to the lowest common denominator. And in the same video, which was so baffling to me, like, if that's your opinion, then that's cool. But in the same breath, he would be like, dude, the Resident Evil 4 remake, it's going to change all this shit. It's going to ruin the original. It's like, if you don't like the original, isn't this game made specifically for you? Because everybody's saying, oh, dude, they're going to bring back the survival horror. It's going to move away from all the campy early 2000s dialogue and stupid shit. It's like, this is exactly what you want, isn't it? It's a survival horror game. It's a lot more scary. It's a lot more realistic.
Yeah.
But he still finds a way, like, and I feel like that's a
sentiment.
An
update. It's an update.
Yeah, like, I feel like that's a sentiment, like, kept by, I mean, you could just lump them all together and say YouTube, because YouTube comments are a cesspool. But you could say that just, like, now that the RE4 remake's coming out, like, people are just trying to like downplay how great 4 was. Like they just want to move on to the next latest and greatest. Like I feel like that's kind of unfair, and it feeds into the other side of the coin where like the people that like the remake, like it puts more like vitriol in them. It's like, dude, the remake, the RE4 remake was literally perfect. Why are you making fun of my favorite game of all time? I grew up with this game. And like they just keep like pushing each other back to like say stupider shit. It's like
it's kind of like if somebody were to compare Super Mario Odyssey to 64. It's just it's not really a comparison that's there to be made. You know what I mean? Like they're 2 totally different times. Now we're of course not talking about a remake, but I would expect an update. I wouldn't expect it to be a reskin. Yeah, so that's why I approach it with a fresh set of eyes, man. Yeah, like
I'll end my rant with this and just say that I am not. It's kind of like something Dad like tells me a whole bunch. It's like he would go to like a Throwdown concert and people are like, dude, this band sucks. They're stealing off of Pantera, and he's like, I like Pantera. Why can't there be more Pantera? I share the same like feeling. It's like I don't not want RE4 remake to be good. Like it's not mutually exclusive. I don't have to pick and choose and say, oh, the original or the remake. I want the remake to be good. If it changes shit and it's better, then okay.
And you want it to stand alone. You don't want it to be a carbon copy.
Yeah, I don't.
Of the 4 we have and have had for a long time.
Yeah, because we already have 4. Like if they want to change,
you can launch it right now.
Like if they want to change some shit, and if it works, sure, and if it doesn't, then okay. There's plenty of shit in the original that doesn't work.
Right. I mean, there's a lot to RE4 that we could call wonky. I mean, there's probably not going to be too much wonkiness to this because it's going to be. I'm sure they're putting a lot of care into it.
Yeah.
And
from the gameplay I've seen, it looks killer, and I'd say the gameplay itself, like it looks like it has, in and of itself, a lot of replayability.
I'm not going to hold any animosity for like iconic lines being cut or characters being adjusted, or I think I've talked about it before on the prior podcast, and the way I kind of feel about it is, if the goal is simply just he's got to go extract the president's daughter from this situation, that's really the plot. They could just really have that be the finish from the start, and whatever they do is what they do. They'll loosely have it be what the game was, different dialogue. But as long as they stay on that path, then the game really is not going to stray too far from the point, right?
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to it. I mean, that's going to be huge for us. I mean, we'll probably have to get on and talk about that. No one better to talk about it with than you, because it'll be brand new. We'll both have it, and we'll have some first impressions and maybe a full review of it when we finish it, man.
Yeah.
But any final thoughts on Resident Evil? I mean, we could talk all day about it, but
yeah,
I think we've
the cows come home to the barn.
I think we've
that
covered
may
it.
Not be dusty.
Yeah, I mean, the barn. I did a little de-dusting, but it's always going to be Dusty Barn.
Absolutely.
In the namesake.
It's more of an institution than a state of cleanliness.
Yeah, and as I said before, this is the first episode of the podcast portion. There's going to be some gameplay and potentially in the future some live streaming. A lot of it's going to be pre-recorded content. I haven't decided on a schedule. I mean, I might pop on here randomly, even alone, and just talk about certain things. We got GoldenEye coming out Friday, things like that, maybe some emergency forums in the future or something like that. But a lot coming, man. I'm glad you came on here today to kind of kick off the podcast with me. I think it went pretty well.
Hell yeah.
But thank you for tuning in for the first ever debut podcast episode of Dusty Barn Gaming with my friend Splickety here. Oh, sorry, not friend, brother. Brother Splickety here.
That's me.
Probably most definitely going to be back. That's for sure. So hopefully you've enjoyed his charisma.
Now this is
and his keen intellect,
my sharp wit and improvisation skills,
and
also,
his impressions of other YouTubers.
Yeah, I think I was pretty. Like, comment, and subscribe, and be sure to let me know down below if, even though this is on Spotify, you can't comment. Let me know if my Glasgow accent was up to snuff.
Yeah. Comment on Splickety's Glasgow accent and let us know what it is. Maybe some improvement for future episodes, But this has been Dusty Barn Gaming's first foray into podcast, and we appreciate everybody listening. Guest Splickety, you are now free to exit, and so am I. It's been fantastic, my brother.
All right, peace out, gamers. See you on the
next one. We'll be back.
one.
I'll definitely be back. We'll see about Splicko.